Hi everyone. I'm here again to talk to you about the next woman in the book I write about. And this time it's from chapter 3, which is The Sleeping Daughter. This time it's about a young woman. She's barely a teenager. She's just 12. And her father was an important guy in town. He was one of the rulers of the synagogue in the town that Jesus goes through one day. And he approaches Jesus and asks, "Please come and lay your hands upon my daughter as she is dying." Well, Jesus agrees to go, and off they go. But first, they go through a crowd of people, and Jesus does something miraculous on the way. He heals a woman bleeding for 12 years. And I've mentioned that in my first video. So maybe you'll want to go back and listen to that one. Anyways, during all of this, a messenger comes from Jairus' house and says, "Don't bother, your daughter's died." And Jesus, encouragingly, in beautiful, encouraging words, tells Jairus to don't be discouraged. Let's go see your daughter. So off they go. And as they arrive at Jairus' house, there are wailers and mourners there. Back in those days, that was normal, that there would be wailing and mourning. In fact, some of them were even paid wailers and mourners to do that. They'd show up at funerals, and that's what they got paid to do, to mourn away and wail away. So Jesus says, "What's all the mourning and the wailing for? Why all this racket?" I'm paraphrasing here again. And they say, "Well, she's dead." And Jesus disagrees. They have a bit of a tussle about that, and he disagrees. Well, they have a good chuckle on his behalf because they're paid mourners. They've been doing this as a career. They know exactly when somebody has died and when somebody hasn't. But he does something really funny, and I love it when Jesus does things that give me a chuckle. He throws them out of the house. He says, "Off you go, leave us be." And I think that's really funny that he does that. It's just like, go on, off you go. And they leave. But they miss one of the most miraculous events that happened in that town during those days. Jesus comes into the house. He brings the mom and the dad, Jairus, and 3 of his disciples up into the little girl's room. She's 12 years old. And he takes her hand and he says, "Little girl, awake from this sleep of death." Now, first of all, the way he addresses her, calling her little girl, it's when I did the research on it, he used the tone and the affection that you and I would use if we were saying, "Oh, you sweet little lamb." It's just so sweet. It's just beautiful. I love the way he talks to women. It's just amazing and beautiful. So her spirit comes back to her and she becomes alive. She is now fully awake, fully alive. And there's much celebration in the house. Jairus and his wife must have been ecstatic because now their daughter is alive. And they're going to see her get married one day, and they're going to have grandchildren through her one day. So this is a big, huge, wonderful thing. And I think that what Jesus does next is he brings everybody back down to earth, in a sense. He says, something funny again. Give her something to eat. It's just like bringing everything back down to a base of just give her something to eat. So that's what happens in the house. She's brought alive, her spirit comes back to her, and they do something normal, have a meal. So why this story touched me so much as I compared it to my own life is that I was unconscious to God for 40 years. I was unconscious, like this little girl was lying there in her bed, unconscious. But Jesus brought her alive, and he did the same thing for me. He brought my spirit alive. He brought me alive in my spirit. And that is something that I'm speechless over how he did that, because most of my life I was running away from anything to do with God. And I did a pretty nasty job at that. But oh, for the grace of God, and oh, for the grace of Jesus, that he came to save me, even though I was running in the opposite direction. So there's a story about the sleeping daughter, and in a sense, I was a sleeping daughter too. And I'm going to leave you again with that little story, and ask you to consider, if you feel like you've been sleeping and not awake in God, that just asking Jesus to come into your life might be a way to awaken that spirit in you. So dear friend, dear ones, I just pray for you today that you might take that step and say yes to the beautiful Father. Until next time, when I have another story to share about one of the women in the Bible, blessings to you, and may you be filled with his love in your heart. Amen.